Hello and welcome to the Voices in Montessori podcast, brought to you by the Green Springs Center for Lifelong Learning. I'm Tamara Sheasley Ballas, and in today's episode, we're talking about family inclusion in holiday celebrations. My guests today are Lydia Farmer and Kalai Ramanathan. They are co-guides in one of our primary classrooms here at Green Spring Montessori School. Both were Montessori students themselves as children and now are also Montessori parents. Lydia earned her primary credential from the Maryland Center for Montessori Studies and is now in her 17th year of teaching. She also serves as the primary level leader here at Green Spring. Kalai has been an educator for 7 years, earning her primary credential from the Washington Montessori Institute in 2022. Welcome, Lydia and Kalai.
Thank you so much for inviting us to talk about the things that we really love to do in Dogwood, gatherings and connecting people. Thank you, Tamara.
Thank you for having us. We're so happy to be here.
Our pleasure. So we're talking about having events and holiday celebrations that are inclusive of the families. And this all started because I walked in to their classroom this past December, and it was filled to the brim. I think you had 75 people there, and it was exceptional. There were tablecloths and little sandwiches, and everyone had a teacup, and there were teapots, and the families were all seated, and the children were serving the families. And I have to share with our listeners that the children were walking so tall and were so proud and were so engaged in what they were doing, and the families were beaming. And it truly was the celebration of just love and joy. And I really felt like everyone needed to know how you all did this, how you created this. So that's how we started. So I'm going to have you all paint a picture of what we were actually, what was I walking in on?
You were walking into the most beautiful gathering of the whole Dogwood community where the children are the host. So we had 75 guests, and we have to rewind a little bit to the previous afternoon where the big transformation was happening in our classroom. For parents, it's magic because most of them didn't know what was happening, but the children were part of the whole celebration. They were part of the planning, part of the excitement. So it started after saying goodbye to the half-day children and the nappers. The rest of the elders of the community were here to transform this class into a beautiful party hall. So all the shelves were moved to the sides. We brought in tables and chairs that will fit the adults, and they were decorated with tablecloth, a flower vase, a centerpiece, and teacups, baskets. They even wrote the place tags, place cards for them. So this involves so much of organization of like how many guests are you going to have? I'm going to bring my grandma, and they're going to write place cards, names for them. So this is like 2-day prep for the day that you came in. There was a lot of background to it. But then the morning is always buzzing with excitement. They know this is going to happen. They know half the magic is already done. The whole classroom has changed, but then they're so excited to welcome the adults, which is always the opposite way, right? Like they've seen their parents welcome people, but this is their chance to welcome parents into their house, their children's house. And that's where you came in to see that excitement.
Well, and I want to say that I think I read an article that people are hosting so much less since the pandemic, and that children are not learning how to be hosts. And it's such an important part of the Montessori curriculum. And for many of these children, the hosting they do in a Montessori classroom is really their only experience with being a host and knowing how to take care of others. And candidly, I think it's a critical element for the development of strong citizens and human beings, to not have it be all about them, but them to get the opportunity to be of service and take care of others in this beautiful way. So I just want to really acknowledge you all for creating something that feeds the soul of not just the children, but of the adults in a way that just it truly was extraordinary. You know, I went on and on about it for quite a long time.
Tamara, you remember we didn't start this way. I've been doing holiday celebrations at the Children's House level for 15 years. And if you remember, back in the early days, I had Tamara's daughter as a 4-year-old, and we invited Tamara as a parent into the classroom, and we had not yet created this tradition. We had only tables and chairs enough for the children. And we did invite the parents. We wanted to have a gathering of community and we invited the parents, but we did not have enough seating to seat the adults. And Tamara shared with me some feedback that first year, my first year getting to know Tamara as head of school and her daughter in my room. And she said, Lydia, I have some feedback for you about that event. We did not feel included. We were standing around the edges while the children were seated. And I took that feedback to heart. And from that day on, we had seating for every guest that ever came in the room. We started out with a stone soup tradition. We brought all the tables in, all the tablecloths, but there was something about the solstice that I think we've really hit the jackpot, and it means so much to so many of the families. It is such an inclusive event, and it's such a way of gathering every spiritual belief system, every religion. Nobody feels excluded, and it's a really beautiful, beautiful way to bring all families together. You mentioned the children being of service. I think it's so important to acknowledge the power and strength that comes out of the children being of service, the pride on their faces as they carry these beautiful old teapots, some of them being donated by their
grandmothers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not their first time.
Yeah.
When we have the guests in, it's not like we're putting them in an uncomfortable situation that they haven't practiced before. We have a sequence of lessons that prepare them. In the beginning, first weeks of school, they're practicing pouring water. And then we transition to pouring hot water, very hot, steaming hot water. And I want to show you this thermos that we have in the classroom every morning. It's just a thermos brand. I pour boiling hot water in here and it will be hot enough to make tea, but it's not like they have to manage a real kettle. The children do use this water to
So
make
now, for the people who are listening, Lydia's holding also almost, it looks like a metal, one of those heavy metal
it's just a thermos brand to-go coffee container.
to-go coffee, and then you're pouring it into
A teapot.
one of the
Nine teapot.
beautiful teapot.
So this is happening every morning in our regular morning work cycle. The children make tea for themselves, for a friend, or for the communal snack table. Tea is being made constantly. If we have a guest who comes in, they will be offered tea.
They
really take pride on offering tea to the guest. They would ask them if they would like to have tea, and then they would take them the tea selections that they could make. We have mint, we have chamomile, and they would show it to the guest, and they get to choose what they want, and then they make tea. They even have a timer for them so that they can wait until it seeps in. So they make it for the guest. And so by doing that to anybody who walks into the classroom, this is not a complete new thing to do on winter solstice party. They already know how to make it. They already know how to serve tea. They know what to request a tea. Like, which one would you like to taste first? We have ginger or we have lemon, whatever the flavors they made before. So it's like a great um, connection for them, the pride they take in offering tea to their parents. Now they are in charge. They are going to serve the tea. They are going to, oh, can I add 2 spoons of honey for you, or is one enough? Like they go into that detail when it comes to hosting their parents. And it's really nice to see the parents leave with this proud moment. I mean, when a parent sees a child being so independent, that's all they need. They're just filled with their lots of emotions and happiness and pride. You can see both in children and parents when they lead this celebration.
We have to be really clear with the adults in giving them the message that they are to remain seated. We sent a message out to the families saying, we're so excited to welcome you to our classroom. There will be 75 people in the room. And because of this, please, if you are not a child in the Dogwood classroom community, we ask that you remain seated for the entirety of the event. And they really listened to us and they did remain seated. And the children were the only ones up, moving about between the tables, carrying the tea to their families. This is something that does not happen overnight. I know that we've practiced many, many times and that the children are aware that they are now finally getting to share this experience that they own privately in their classroom community. Now they get to share it with their families. Anytime we have an opportunity for them to do that, we want to take advantage of that.
What an incredible valorizing moment for the children, right? The moment where it all comes together and all of that work and all of those practical life skills that they have built step by step. I would also assume that you are thinking about how to hold the children, because you have a classroom that has just this beautiful rainbow of different backgrounds and
Right.
religions and ethnicities, and it's just beautiful. And it's you're I know that you put a lot of attention on making sure that all these cultures have the opportunity to be honored through the celebrations throughout the year. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. I think the DEIB committee played a big role in it. It inspired both me and Lydia to really pay attention to any connections the child will have. I mean, with the holidays, with the celebration, we wanted to have something, some of the part that is in his house, in their home, into our house, so that they feel connected and belong in this place. So when we started doing that, it became like a fun thing for both of us to know. Like we didn't know a lot of celebrations that happened in their home because it's not widely spoken about. I mean, you can see the child's face light up when you talk about that. Like, how do you know it? Where did you learn that? Oh, I learned it in a book. And this says that you would pray as a family or you would sit together for a meal in a home, and you call that what? And they were like so much wanting to talk more about it. And so I think from there it started on like, let's go celebrate everything, acknowledge every celebrations and every traditions and culture. And even if we don't have a child who don't celebrate that, we would just like make uh, a, a talk saying, I have a friend who told me today is the celebration. And then we would talk about that. We would read books on it just to let them know there are different kind of people in this world. They do believe different things and they all celebrate this. And it's good to know that this is how it's celebrated. So it's all started from there. And then the sun celebration is a big thing in Montessori classroom. Sun is for all. So I felt it's beyond religion. Everyone lives because of sun. And the funny question that the child would answer, like, why do you think we blow the candle? Why do you think we need a sun? And they would say, because we would not be able to live without sun. And that's so true. Sun holds us all together in one space. And choosing solstice is because of that. We felt like that is one thing will connect everybody together and we can have tea.
Summer, we used to steer clear of all the holidays.
That's right.
It's like, I never want to leave anyone out. I do not want to exclude anyone. So I will not have a Christmas tree in my room.
Hmm.
No menorah. No, I will not have any of it. And then it will be equal. And we found that we were doing such a disservice to the feeling of belonging for the children for whom this is so important in their homes. Why is it not being acknowledged in the classroom? So the diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging really allowed us and insisted that we celebrate all.
Can I just add one detail to that? As I heard you saying that, I realized that and that was under my leadership. So, I didn't have us celebrate anything so that no one would feel discluded. I don't know if that's a word, but discluded. And,
Excellent.
and, yet it was also cutting out the spiritual part of many children's lives and having it be separate. And the truth is that we have to center the spirit of the child. We can't have it be that spirituality doesn't have a place at school. Now, we're not teaching religion, right? We're not teaching anything about God or Allah or any of those conversations, but we need to make space for the children to bring their full authentic selves into our communities, which includes these important rituals and traditions and celebrations. And so I just wanted to add that. I realized that as you were saying that when we cut that out, we're cutting out such an important part of the child.
It's about belonging. They need to see themselves reflected in their classroom community. And without giving them that feeling of belonging, not only that we know that this is happening in their homes, but that we are also going to read a book about tashlish. And just to hear the word come out of their guide's mouth that they know from home is so significant. So we can't cut that part out. We have to include as many as we can. We were so lucky because Kalai can bring in her beautiful Diwali, Rangoli, and Diyas, and these, she can say, this is my tradition. I want to share it with you. But not everybody has that in their classroom. And if you're listening and you're thinking, well, I don't have anybody who celebrates Diwali, and I don't know anybody who is Jewish in my classroom, why should I celebrate this? They need to hear exposure to all kinds of people. And if you, as their guide, are modeling, guess what? My friend told me is happening in her house. Then they know this person exists. It doesn't even have to be real, but you have to tell them that this person exists. And they know that it's true because they trust you and your experience. You also need to model not knowing. You need to model, I've never seen this before. I can't wait to learn more. And modeling not knowing is just as important as modeling knowing. And this is how we are going to show the children that people who are different than them are important and matter. And this is something our world needs.
Mm, that is so beautiful. So well said, you all. So well said. Bravo. Okay, so we know that you chose the solstice because it was so inclusive. And we know that you did a huge amount of work on preliminary lessons and really had the children be prepared. But can you tell us some of the nuts and bolts around, you know, what is the actual event itself? How are you preparing the children to be ready for this? What are they doing to be ready?
I think we've talked about the tea preparation. Carrying big heavy pots, carrying pouring hot boiling water, practicing making tea as a part of everyday life. I think the other thing that was really meaningful to the children was these baskets of bread. And many toddler classrooms make bread. We also are including food in our daily morning work cycle as a way to feed the spirit. You know, if a child is peeling and cutting potatoes and frying them up and making home fries and smelling the home fries at lunch, that's feeding their spirit. They feel that they're home, right? And the same for muffins and tea biscuits and cookies and
So we run a full kitchen. We run a full kitchen, meaning we have all the supplies that's been donated to us by the parents. And we have a recipe book that child can follow. And it's so organic that they would come in, they would open the fridge, they will choose what they want to cook today. Well, I see bananas getting really old, and it's the best thing to do banana muffin today, and I'll wait to do eggs tomorrow. So they make logical choices there to make what do I have to cook today? And they start cooking with the recipe book. The readers help. It's always a partnership. So
there are two people in the kitchen each
two
day,
helpers,
two bakers or two
chef
chefs.
in the kitchen. And so they would read, they would gather the ingredient, they will set up everything, they will mix up, and they would just need us to just come plug in and those kind of things, which we have asked them to ask us some help with. But the rest of them, they own the whole kitchen that morning, and they are so proud about it. And they also write recipes to take home. They know what they are doing. So there is so many practices that happens, and all this joy, Tamara, comes alive when you see them serve in the lunch. They are super excited by the time the lunch begins. They are like really excited to serve and see, and they're like, "Do you like it? Is it sweet? Do you like it? How is it? How's it?" And then they would come around and say, "Miss Lydia, do you think this is enough for a second serving for everybody?" Because they want to make sure everybody gets a second serving. It's not like one gets four and another gets none. And then they would do the counting to go
But
and
Tamara, you asked about nuts and bolts. It seems too good to be true what we're saying. I'm hearing us from Tamara's perspective. We have to simplify it so that they can be successful. One thing that you did that was so smart was that you created the flour that was the prepared flour. So instead of having the children go through measuring out a tablespoon of baking soda or baking powder, a tablespoon. What is your?
It's called a pre-made flour. It's flour. So some of the children knew what exactly goes in there. So all the dry item goes in there. The flour, the baking soda, the salt, and all that goes in that big container. So they know they just have to take 1.5 scoop of pre-made baking soda. But making that itself is a lesson for some. They would make that when they see that box empty, they would prepare and leave it ready for any time you go. Just like how you would visualize your kitchen. When you want to cook really fast, you need things in your right places. And so this is going to be a chain, a circle like that. So we simplified a lot. You're right. We simplified a lot of things, saying wet ingredients goes in one bowl, dry goes in the other one. And then once you've gathered everything, mixed everything, you just mix them up.
The other thing is that it takes 3 years. It doesn't happen the first year. These 3-year-olds need to watch the 4, 5, and 6-year-olds doing this for a whole year while they just learn how to scoop and level off sand, right? They are not starting with the prepared flour even. They are practicing in the sandbox. The 4-year-olds in their second year may be using the pre-prepared flour and feeling like $1,000,000 that now they finally get to make the muffins that they've been eating for a year. And it's not till their third year that now they get to actually make the pre-prepared flour for the younger children so that they can help be of service to their youngers. So this cycle is so significant. It does not happen overnight. You have to decide that you want this for your classroom and decide that you're going to do it every day. And in 3 years, you will have a beautifully functioning kitchen.
But it's
And
clear.
you didn't start out that way. I mean, I think that that's really important. Lydia's been doing this for 17 years. Kalai's been in the classroom for 7. This is not if you are a new guide or new in the role, we're painting a vision for you of where you can get. Please don't beat yourself up if you're not there yet. Please,
Just
have grace
spread,
with yourself,
just spread sun butter on toast. Just,
right?
right?
Or
Like,
That's the
celery.
part.
Mhm.
stick with ants on a log because that's the same thing. Um,
Mhm.
It is. It gets them and having that food prep and having them be able to, if you have a school that allows for food prep, that's such an important part of it. And when you're coming together with the celebration, you also get every table the school owns
that's right.
I
and
know.
put them in the classroom. And the room parents come in, I think, to help with some of the pieces. I think you educate them to make sure they don't take over. Is that right?
It's actually a really nice
Nice.
opportunity for the
Mhm.
room parent to feel belonging to the class because
Okay.
the room parent is usually an outside of the classroom presence. And when that person comes the
Comes in.
afternoon
Mhm.
before, they really get to see what it's like and be a part of the transformation of the classroom, helping to carry the shelves and push them all to the side. Yeah.
Hmm.
Holiday celebration to me is mostly connecting people.
Yep.
And I think room parent gets to connect with every single child and connects with the bigger community that she is. She's the bridge between both parents and us. So we like to involve the parent in there. And it kind of creates excitement for the children too to see someone new helping and planning. Planning is the big thing. Like, do you want 4 chairs here? I remember how Dave was like when we told him we need this many chairs, and he immediately asked, "Are you planning on a training center? Where are you planning to put the chairs and tables?" I'm like, "Right in Dogwood." And I was like, "Dogwood?" He's like, "Okay, I'll do whatever you ask me to do, but good luck." And then he came around to tell us, like, I could not believe what you guys did. Because it is magic for those who are not in part of the planning. It's like really a magic. I'm like,
Hmm.
how did you do that? But it is big and it is connecting people in different ways. Like I would like to share the story about the grandma who gave us collecting teapots is one of the most interesting thing in this process. So we would write an email to the staffs asking, and we were asking for cups and teapots and other things. We would go door by door with the wagon, collect all the teapots in ginkgos, in mulberries, in like anybody
With the
who's ready to
children,
offer
correct?
with the children.
With the
We have a wagon and they will pull, they would knock and they say, "We are here to gather your teapots." And they would gather it. We would take a picture and we'll say, "This belongs to this classroom. This belongs to this classroom." We organize that with the children that afternoon. And we also extend our invitation to the families because if we don't have enough, that's where we'll go. We'll ask them more. And one grandma sent in uh, the teapots that her mother-in-law gave, which is like the teapot should be like 1800 years old. And I was like, "Are you sure you want us to use this?" And she was like, hugged me and said, "I am so happy you served tea in the same teapot I gave you guys." And it felt so connected. It really felt the connections that we possibly can't imagine these things. And celebrations is all for that. And we love making that happen.
We've also started a collection of our own, a communal teapot and tea set collection that we keep in our communal kitchens, so more of our classrooms can take
Yeah.
part and can use them.
Think it's one of our staff who donated it to us, and then we
Mhm.
thought that could stay there because everybody else could use it when they have a celebration. Yeah.
I have to tell you all, for those of you who are listening, these two have created a classroom that is so filled with love. Like, if you haven't gotten that from the podcast, you should know the dogwood classroom. We all of our classrooms at Green Spring are named after trees, and the dogwood classroom is filled with love. And you all do so much work around supporting the children and the adults alike in having a sense of belonging and connection. And it permeates out in everything that you do. And um, I'm so grateful that you, first of all, to have the opportunity to work with you all and partner with you, but also that you would take the time to share everything you've learned over these years about how to support the community in this such an important way. I mean, the grandma gets to share her 100-year-old teapot and have it tended to and cherished and respected and loved, right? So I just really, in case you all, your listeners can't hear it, you should know that this is based completely in love, and these two are absolutely living what Dr. Montessori asked us to do.
Thank you. You have to be willing to do a lot of dishes and a lot of laundry. It's so worth it. It's
It's
so
so
worth
worth
it.
it to an extent that you will think that you have sugar in your house and you would not.
Oh, that was the
Probably,
other
oh, that's
kitchen.
the other kitchen. I'm so sorry. We don't have sugar today. To that extent, it becomes so embedded in your day-to-day shelf. Like you open the door and then I think, not this kitchen.
So, is there anything else that you feel like our listeners should know about creating an inclusive holiday event for their families?
Use tradition. Use what you remember from your childhood that was special to you. Don't be afraid of the past, and don't be afraid to keep learning something new.
Mm, thank you. How about you, Kalai? Any words of wisdom?
I feel tradition is something you can create from what you have experienced. If you don't have one, you could always create one and keep it to your heart and work it through it. And so this whole thing started like that. We kept talking about what we did early in our childhood, and we came up with something. And if I don't come from many tradition. I mean, yeah, there is tradition, but then I come from a place where I had to create traditions here. I don't have celebration that happens here in my family, but I have to incorporate it into my home. So I was always willing to go a little further and make it my tradition, make it my house call. And so this was like Dogwood always feels like a home to me. It's like I made something else a tradition.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I love that, and I think it's one of the things that really feeds the soul of human beings is rituals and traditions and having things that they can work towards and look forward to. And that's what you've done is you've created this kind of pinnacle moment, this beautiful moment of inclusion and service and love for for the year for these children. And I know they look forward to it all year. They as soon as they've seen it, and to your point, they start out at 3 and they come in and they don't know quite what because they're certainly not doing this in toddlers, you know. And but they build some of those skills in toddler, sitting in a community and passing things around and then having the opportunity to then eh, just be valorized in such a unique and beautiful way. So thank you both.
Thank you, Tamara.
Thank you
This
so
has
much.
been such a gift, and I'm so glad we're getting this out. I do want you all to know that we're dropping this in November for you all, our listeners, with no expectation that you're going to be able to put something like this together in December because it's too quick and there's so much to work towards. But we wanted to give it to you now so that maybe there's a little piece of this that you can take and then next year a little bit more and then a little bit more. Or perhaps you already have a celebration that really works for your community and there's some pieces you might want to consider or add. So we're thinking about you and your beautiful Montessori communities all over the world. Thank you both for being here with us today. And to our listeners, I want to say thank you for spending time with us today. Take a look at our website at greenspringcenter.org to view the show notes from today's episodes. And we really invite you to Subscribe to our podcast on Facebook and Instagram. As Dr. Montessori said, an education capable of saving humanity is no small undertaking. We agree. Let's get to work. See you next time.